Hello, functional family. Today's presentation will be on digital detox, protecting health in a screen filled world. And so, today's talk will be on how much screen time that we're having, what it does to our bodies, not only psychologically, but physically. So, we'll get into some of the details and we'll get into some of the research that supports this. So, what is digital detox? It's an intentional reduction or elimination of screen use. So, a reduction of screen use, that would be an intentional thing that you would do, just saying, hey, no screen use before bed, which is something you should practice anyway. We should really eliminate all screen use for like 2 hours before we go to bed. And so that would be just reduction. There is a complete elimination of screen use for a day, and there's a lot of physiological effects and good things that can happen from that. So, why digital detox matters? Well, we're exposed to screens almost everywhere in work, school, social life. So, chronic exposure to all the screens, the blue lights, everything, it creates physiological and psychological stressors on our body, which can then have multiple effects on systems in our body. So, if we can understand the importance of controlling our digital involvement and then figure out how we can effectively control that, really does matter. Digital exposure affects sleep. Most digital devices emit a blue light, which is a light that stimulates cortisol production. And that cortisol production is what we don't want in the evening because that'll stimulate our body and it'll make it awake. So what we want to have happen in normal hormone cycles is in the morning we want to have cortisol production. We want it to be very high and that'll taper off. And then about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we want melatonin to kick in, and the melatonin production will slowly increase through the evening. So the blue light is actually a part of the sunrise, and then yellow light is a part of sunset. So that also adheres to our hormonal systems, and it actually influences our hormonal systems, and that's fantastic. But if we have blue light in the evening, that'll decrease our sleep quality because it'll stimulate or it'll decrease melatonin, which won't allow us to get into deep sleep early like we're supposed to. Also, it'll increase fatigue. So, in long-term effects of digital exposure in the evening and chronic cortisol increases in cortisol can lead to risk of metabolic dysfunction. So, back to stress and cortisol dysregulation from using digital devices. So one of the things that happens with our digital devices is we get these notifications that pop up, or we'll hear a notification on our phone. And what that does is it actually activates our sympathetic nervous system. So if we get a lot of these notifications, it directly affects the nervous system. It can create chronic stress, high cortisol levels, and high inflammation just by notifications on the phone. Isn't that crazy? So it can also, because our system will then be constantly sympathetic, it also will impair our immune system, and it can also help or decrease our mental health overall. So the digital exposure has direct effect on mental health. So excessive screen time is linked to anxiety and depression. There was a study in 2018, and it was done with adolescents, and they had greater than 7 hours of screen time per day, and they reported a much higher incident of depression. So the screen definitely affected sympathetic activation with them and created this depression. Also, there's this social media comparison where we look at social media and we see these people that are all happy on their vacations and they're posting their best pictures of themselves that have been altered and all this stuff, which then we do these comparisons and it can decrease our overall self-esteem. And also, a lot of times we'll be doing screen activities and scrolling, and we'll try to combine that and we'll try to do multitasking, but overall that's going to reduce our focus and our overall cognitive performance. So excessive digital use can lead to health problems, physical health problems. And if you're on the computer a lot, on your phone a lot, that normally will lead to sedentary life or sedentary behavior, which then in turn can lead to obesity and insulin resistance. Being on your screen for a long period of time also can create neck and shoulder and back pain. So a lot of times it's called tech neck, where we kind of lean our head forward a little bit and we round our shoulders forward. That leads to a lot of trigger points in our upper traps and a lot of strain on the muscles of the back of the neck. And also a lot of screen time leads to eye strain and dry eyes and headaches. There's a study in 2020 that showed that 50 to 90% of digital users experienced eye strain and neck strain. So excessive screen time can lead to cognitive overload. And a lot of times when we're on our phones or on the computers, we're doing multiple things at once. So, with all the alerts and all this multitasking can lead to mental fatigue. And that in turn will lead to reduced memory. And so when you're trying to do multiple things at one time, we're trying to be productive, but actually focusing on one thing at a time is a much better way. You can get things done more efficiently and effectively. So what is the major part of screen time that affects us physiologically? Well, again, going back to that blue light that's emitted from the screen, that blue light, what it does is a stimulant, and it stimulates cortisol, which then depresses melatonin. And when we have depressed melatonin, again, we can't go to sleep very well. It also it decreases our parasympathetic nervous system, which affects multiple systems. So there's just an overall cortisol dysregulation when we have this blue light in our eye, especially in the evening, which and then in turn can reduce movement and mitochondrial dysfunction and inflammation. So there's a lot of things that just cascade down from this blue light that's emitted. Now, granted, we can have blue light glasses that you can buy to reduce it, and we can even have blue light like screensavers on our screens to decrease blue light. But still, the object here is just to try to decrease the source, which is sitting in front of your computer or in front of your phone. So what does the evidence say? What does the research say about using screens for more than 2 to 3 hours a day? Well, in Chalepa research in 2011, it showed very poor sleep quality, which means decreased deep sleep and decrease in REM sleep. In Twinge in 2018, it showed a significant increase in anxiety and depression. And then in Ray Lopez in 2008, showed increased chances of obesity from that 2 to 3 hours of screen time per day. So how do we do this? What are the principles of a digital detox? So we just need to set times aside that we don't use our devices. And the best time is to limit right before bed. 1 to 2 hours before bed, we shouldn't have our TVs on, our phones on, our computers on. We should stay away from those. And we can replace screen time with restorative activities. So this, just give an example before bed. Meditation would be a good thing to do, or just reading a book would be a good thing to do. So replace it. And then it's good to track and monitor screen device use. So a lot of our phones and computers will give us times that we've been on our computers or our phones. So we can have those built in, and they can give us like every week how much screen time we're using, which is really helpful to track it. So what are some practical strategies? We've kind of gone over a couple of them, but we can use blue light glasses, or we can use a blue light filter on our phones and on our computers. And those are really easy just to apply to our computers. And there are actual filters that you can put over your screen and you can put over your phones. Just keep all your devices out of your bedroom. Let's just keep them out of your bedroom and make that a rule in your house. And also maybe no phones at the dinner table, or maybe you could just go for like 1 day a week. Just, hey, we're doing a screen-free Sunday. No TVs, no phones, nothing like that. And then try to replace your screen time with other activities. So like maybe taking walks or just going outdoors, something like that. So what are some of the benefits of a digital detox? Well, it's definitely going to improve your sleep quality and your circadian rhythm. Again, if we can get more deep sleep, we're going to clear toxins out of our brain. If we improve REM sleep, we're going to improve our memory. So by decreasing, especially at night before we go to bed, we decrease our computer time and our phone time. That's going to happen. It's also going to reduce stress and cortisol. So again, that blue light that's emitted increases our cortisol and it increases our sympathetic nervous system activity, which increases stress. So if we get rid of that, it'll decrease, the sympathetic response and our cortisol production. We'll have better mental clarity and focus. It'll reduce eye strain and musculoskeletal strain, and it's going to support overall metabolic health. Integrating digital detox in daily life. Start small, 1 to 2 hours per day. So just limit your time to that 1 to 2 hours a day and start off with that and see how that goes. And then maybe gradually decrease that time as you feel comfortable with that. And then instead of doing screen time, maybe replace it with other things like exercise or meditation, and just take care of your physical body well too by maybe hydrating. And then track your outcomes. See how your sleep scores go up. See if your deep sleep increases. See if your REM sleep increases. Just check your overall mood. Am I feeling better because I've had this less digital time? And then also check productivity. Am I getting more stuff done that I need to get done? Those are just nice ways to check to see if you're being effective and this is helping. In closing, digital overload is a problem in our current culture. So we just want to be aware of it. And we want to try to limit its effect on us. And we can do that by just limiting its time, by being aware of how much time we spend on our phones and on our computers. So we want to make sure we take our intentional breaks. We want to decrease overall time. And that's just to help us to restore better health to our bodies. So just small steps at first, just limit times, be aware of your time first of all, and then start limiting that time. Start replacing it with other helpful, activities for your body. Like I said, meditations or walks and exercises, things like that. And just see overall how you feel once you start to do this. Are you more productive? Is your mood better? Do you feel physically overall better? And that's a good way just to confirm that this is helpful. So I hope this is helpful. Just digital overload is a real thing and we just do need to address it. So your nervous system is very precious. So it's important that we protect it.